If you guys enjoyed this video, remember to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. With that being said, hello everyone, welcome back to another video. My name is Matthew, and today we're taking another look at another NECA Godzilla. That's right, continuing on, treading through the world of NECA Godzilla history. And today we have what was one of two final sculpts, not figures specifically, but sculpts that would lead into the repaint of Godzilla figures from the line. One of them was the 1989 Godzilla, which we took a look at a few videos ago, and this one, which is the 2003 Godzilla from Tokyo, S.O.S. Yes, that's right. So this was, of course, one of NECA's last sculpts they released, and one of two last figures they released as far as repaints go, that being the Biollante Bio Attack, which I also did a review of, and the figure that I don't have, the Hyper Maser Blast Godzilla, which was like basically this guy just all decked out in yellow and blue. That said, for this figure in particular, I actually have a fond memory of actually trying to get this guy. I will say the seller is a bit hard to actually kind of come by because I wasn't used to trying to buy stuff, so my way of communication was a bit funky, but hey, I'm a lot older, I'm a lot more experienced, so I have a bit more experience when it comes to like buying figures. So that said, this is obviously going to be based on the 2003 version, which if you don't know the difference between the 2002 and the 2003, basically this one has the scar and this one doesn't, as well, or the 2002 version does not, which is kind of weird because you'd think that NECA would actually use this guy and not do the scar and just call that the 2002 Godzilla. But they didn't. They went the extra mile to just go right out of the gate, make a 2003 Goji, and not really make a 2002 Godzilla, which kind of sucks because I feel like they could have at least maybe tried to do it, just remove the scar and send the prototype off to Toho. I mean, effectively, that's really all they could have done, but that said, we're going to be taking a look at this guy in particular. So, with that said, being the biggest NECA Godzilla aside from the 2014 12-inch tall variant, does this guy live up to the expectations of being the tallest, or does he come up short as far as quality is concerned? Let's find out. When we take a look at the sculpt and paint for the head, you're going to notice something pretty cool, and that's the figure is casted in a pretty much a flat gray plastic with a lot of nice dry brushing, and you can kind of see what I mean by like the kind of dirtier wash on this guy being used. We have the nostrils, or the nose, which I will say it's a bit incorrect as far as like where it's kind of sculpted, because one's a bit higher up than the other one is. You can kind of see that, but as you can tell, there's at least a lot of detail to be found here, because here we have a bit more like the cheeks here where it meets the nasal cavity, and they look really nice. I will say the detail work is just phenomenal. And then we have the standard kind of like oval shaped scales spanning backward to the ears. The eyes, I'll admit, they do look a little derpy, but that's only because the 2002 Godzilla kind of mostly looked up, and I'm getting like tons of cat fur. Again, I have like 3 cats, so there's that. For the actual eye, they have a very shiny finish with kind of like a black highlight with a white base, and it looks really cool. For the ears, not too much is going on here. We're having like a big, nice oval-shaped ear, and so it looks really sweet. Looking inside the jaw, actually, let's quickly cover the eyebrows. They're actually quite big, quite thick, and very well dry brushed. We have, again, the gray base with some more brownish wash in there. Looking inside the mouth, which, let's open up the mouth, there we go. The teeth are individually sculpted and painted, and they actually have some pretty cool paint jobs on there. And for the mouth itself, it's very well detailed and has like a very rough texture. And you can also see the top of the mouth has some pretty interesting detail as well. And the tongue is very roughed up. I think I just said that, whatever. But it looks really cool. There's actually no visible hinge. Well, actually, there is kind of one, but it's like very well blended into the sculpt. So they did improve that over time, which is something I do like. So as you can see, he constantly looks up, so there's going to be that. The bottom of the jaw, just to briefly look, but bang in my camera, very well sculpted, very well detailed. Now let's talk about the neck piece, which it's going to be the bit of, well, let's talk about an articulation. That was my chair, don't worry. or it was just my back and I'm being an idiot. Obviously, it was my chair. We have this big neck piece, which for the spine work, it actually is pretty well done. We have a bit of like frosted tips, as we'll talk about with the fins. And this time around, they are made of a more rubbery plastic, which I guess it's more akin to what they did in the more classic era Godzilla figures, like the 94 and 84. But this is actually still very well done. The mold down here, again, we have all the like diamond oval shaped scales, and kind of goes down with the brown wash. The caterpillar segmented neck, as you can see, has like the more smoothened out details, and of course the spiky bits at the end. And of course this side as well with the very broad shoulders. Let's go to the scar itself really quick. As you can tell, the scar is very glossy, and that makes it stand out a bit from the actual design of the figure being a lot more matte in terms of its paint job. As you can see, it has quite a bit of a purple finish as well, so it's a bit purplish brown, not like vibrant purple, but it definitely helps a bit. So it kind of starts up here, and then you have 2 segments, 3, 4, and then ends down there at the pelvis. So going to the arms, very short stubby arms, of course. Got a lot of nice dry brushing and detail here. For the claws, they don't have any shading, but they do have a decent paint application, I will say. They are painted all the way. I think I would have liked some more highlights on the claws, but then again, everything else is like kind of dry brushed and washed. Just to kind of show you more like the stomach itself. The dry brush is there, as long as with the detail. Now let's talk about the dorsal plates, like in general, in full, moving back the camera. These are some beautiful dorsal plates. Are they my favorite? Maybe not, because they do feel personally a little flimsy. I think I would have liked a more solid feeling. Funny enough, the side fins actually do have that exact feeling. I think it's honestly because, nope, that's debunked. They are a separate piece. I thought they were originally part of the sculpt. Nope, they are in fact a separate piece. You can kind of see what I mean. If we zoom in real in, I think that's a little too far. You can kind of see there's a seam line. Yep, that's like literally as far as I can zoom in. So putting it back to order, there we go. For the bigger fins, we actually do get a very well done amount of detail work here, with the gray centers and the frosted white tips that are all dry brushed and washed. Have a beautiful transition, especially the middle rows. And what I always appreciated about the Kiryu Saga Godzilla is that it has a lot more of like a crystal-like appearance than the more, I guess, symmetrical, oval-esque shaped appearance of the Heisei fins. So it definitely spices things up with the overall design. For the thighs here, proportionally they aren't as big as other NECA Godzillas, but they're still big and chunky. I mean, of course, something's got to support all that weight. Realistically speaking, this guy would just shatter himself, but this is semi-realism. It's just believable that he would have large legs to accommodate such a big body. That said, I will admit, the folds in the skin do give off the illusion that this guy is more of a suit than anything as well. But as far as the actual details concerned, we do have almost like a bit of a wavy pattern. You see that? It's almost like a wavy type. And that's honestly something I do like. So it gives this guy a bit more of a unique display presence, because we have a bit of a fold right there, and then we have a bit of dry brushing across the sides with more of the sculpted details, the kneecaps, and of course this side of the legs as well. For the underside of the feet, there and there, with peg holes, and for the actual feet, more of that dry brushing on the feet themselves, not so much on the claws. They do have a good amount of detail, and of course we have the 3 front toes with the back toe right there. It's kind of one note, although they do kind of have a little bit of like transition at the base. I think I would have liked some more detail. But speaking of detail to tail, here is the tail, the longest of the NECA Godzillas in history, coming in at what, 13 inches? This is an absurdly long tail, which, like, to put this into perspective, I don't really have anything on me. Like, this is like the entirety of nearly the entirety of my forearm. That is a friggin' long tail. But going from the base, we do have some of that amazing sculpted work with the dry brushing and all the individually painted and sculpted fins that go right to the tippy tail. And just to kind of roll it over to this side. Looks great, doesn't it? Here's a bit of an overshot of that. All the individual segments. And of course the smoothened out dry brush of the tail underneath. So let's have one final look at the sculpt and paint. So here's this side. Here's this side. Overside, bird's eye view, and underside. So, for the S.O.S. Goji, as far as the sculpt and paint is concerned, while he's not necessarily 100% accurate, you can still identify that this is the 2003 Godzilla. Do I have any pros or cons? I will say the pros are the detail work is excellent. I love what we have here. The dry brushing, I'll admit as well, is personally really good, and I do like it. The only thing I don't really like, I'd say, are going to be the claws, because they are a bit more one note in comparison to a more, not vibrant, but kind of a, what's the term I'm looking for? Bit of a diversive body, because you actually have dry brushing over the base color. And I think this guy would have benefited from some colored claws or shading, kind of like what the 62 Godzilla had. Maybe that's not what he had in the movie, but I definitely think the figure could have benefited. But aside from that, I do love the way that this thing overall looks. And it's also very big as far as size goes. We'll talk about that in the size comparison. But on its own, it's going to be a 9 out of 10. I love what we have here. Articulation time, and this is where things kind of start turning a bit. We have a jaw hinge, which can go, pushing it can go this far wide, shut that far in. For the head, we can go a full 360 degrees and go up some, down some, to the left and right. And you might see there's no segment at the neck. Let me show you what they did. Now, when promotional pictures dropped for this guy, I'm probably using one for the thumbnail, you actually might have noticed that there's no cut here. That is because when they actually made the articulation cuts, instead of like segmenting it on the neck, they actually cut the entirety of like what's essentially like the bust of it, like the profile, and cut it right to the shoulder pads. And essentially the shoulders are now inside of it, and it just kind of looks weird when you pose it. So basically this entire top half moves from the second dorsal plate up. Everything is entirely on one piece, which, I mean, there really kind of wasn't a use for this joint because you can barely get kind of a rotation. It does move a bit. It's just you have to do a lot of finessing. And you can go a little up and down, but effectively, I don't really see the point in this joint because as soon as you swivel it, boom, there goes the scar, there goes the dorsal plate alignment, and here you got this weird, ugly flap. So I don't know what NECA's thought process was. Maybe they just couldn't get a joint that looked cohesive. Like maybe if they try to cut it up here. But I definitely think cutting up down here was not the way to go. I've always kind of found that a little confusing. But on the flip side, when you move the shoulders, these big flaps are going to be on a bit of like a flexible rubber. So it doesn't get a whole lot of the way in the articulation department. So you can get a full 300, maybe not a full 360 degrees, but kind of close to. You can get a bit of like a rotation. And you can actually go pretty far out and pretty far in. The elbows, you can go in like that out and rotate a bit, swivel hinge and rotate at the wrist, and hinges for the fingers. So that's a good aspect. The waist is very nice because you can actually go bit backward, bit forward, twist side to side, and lean side to side, just like that. For the hips, we can go, oh, not really all that much. It's definitely not meant to be like that. It's mainly kind of meant for a bit of a rotation, but I will admit, these legs are very much limited. I guess it's just because of how narrow they are. They weren't probably able to put like a good joint in there, but come on. Swivel hinges for the knees, which are still stiff beyond belief, but you can get a fine rotation there. Ball joint here at the foot, which has a pretty decent pivot. And we do get a very nice swivel there. And then we get a couple ball joints, which we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 segments, all the way down to the tip of the tail, and from here to here is a bendy wire, which mine's actually not starting to poke out, but it's almost there. It's almost on its way of poking out right there. Kind of notice a little curve? That is gonna be the that's gonna be it. Anyway, so yeah, essentially they brought back the hybrid tail, but it's a bit more, I would say 95% ball joint, 5% bendy wire. So that said, what do I think of the articulation? I definitely think that there are some good parts here, like the mouth and head, great. Shoulders, really good. The legs could use a little bit of work, but the tail, you can get so much range out of this thing. Like, it goes all the way up here, you can go all the way down, straighten it out if you want to, go to the left, go to the right, and it all holds its pose. And it's kind of a big, beefy tail, which I don't know how NECA was able to do that, but they definitely did. It's going to be this neck joint which really puts me off, because the neck piece, while it's not essential, it's so distracting when they do stuff like this, and it doesn't even look that 100% cohesive. Like, NECA, this is no way like my personal attack, it's just criticism. Then again, it's criticism of a line you discontinued, so I don't really know if you're going to take it. I don't even know if you're watching this review, but at the same time, there had to have been a better way to do this. So I am going to dock off points for that. But overall, the articulation, while it's slightly weaker than it should be, I'm going to give this thing an 8 out of 10. Because the articulation as a whole, still pretty good for what you get. For some size comparisons, here he is with some other Kiryu Saga figures in my collection, with the S.H. Monster Arts 2002 Godzilla, and the Bandai bootleg movie monster series Kiryu. Which, as for the scale, I bought this guy specifically for him just because I knew from the start these two would go together, so maybe he's not meant for him. I mean, literally look at this. If anything, I think, even though in the film they were about the same height, I mean, Toho scaling kind of sucks, because they're the same guys who admit Mothra larva from the Showa era fighting against a 50-meter tall Godzilla is over 200 friggin' meters long. Like, that doesn't work at all in the movie scaling, but apparently it's official. Anyway, he's supposed to be taller at 60 meters, which doesn't make sense because he's built around the 54 Godzilla, which is only 50 meters, versus this one, which is about 55 meters, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong. I think he's either 50 or 55 meters. Again, it's been a while since I watched Tokyo S.O.S. It's been a while since I've necessarily watched any of the classic films, but that said, I think I've kind of rambled long enough. But as for these two specifically, I made a video a while back. I probably will remaster it just like I remastered the Monster Arts 2019-2021 comparison. But you'll see that in the near future. And for another size comparison, here he is with the 1989 Godzilla simultaneous released and the NECA 2014 Godzilla original version. And as you can see, there is a clear, stark difference of where NECA started and where NECA ended. Because this wasn't the exact end of the line, but it was the last sculpts they released for the line. if you include the repaints of the Biolante Bile and the Hyper Muser Blast variants of these two. But you might have noticed I didn't cover accessories, and I kind of want to ask something, bringing me to a dilemma, if you will. A Godzilla NECA dilemma. You have two figures that were simultaneously released, both base Godzilla. Okay, what seems to be the issue? This guy comes with a beam effect. This guy does not. They both get repaints. Okay, this guy comes in a Biolante puke all over the place version, whatever, okay. Also includes the beam effect. This guy, while it's not necessarily a Spitfire, it is a variant that is getting charged at and also has blue dorsal plates. Granted, not all of them are blue, but some of them are. And it still doesn't get a beam effect. What was the thought process? Again, just a general question. Why didn't this guy get a beam, but this one did? Same price, released simultaneously, and you guys included a beam effect with nearly every Godzilla release post 62, almost, except for 2014, the reissues of 2019 V1 and V3. But come on, please. I mean, it's kind of too late, but whatever. But overall, also if you're wondering which beam this is from the 2019 V2 beam. I think just stylistically it works the best with this Godzilla because Godzilla 2002/3 had a much more mainstream light beam. I think that this figure is pretty damn sweet overall. Is it perfect? Again, no, it's not. It has flaws. The claws I don't really like in comparison to the rest of the body, and the way that the actual nape is done is not that great. That said, I think that the mold is very well done, very crisp with its detail. The articulation, again, it's pretty good for what you get. The neck piece is just something I don't really like. The head's great, shoulders are good. The legs could be a little improved on, but the tail, awesome. And I do think the lack of a beam effect, especially during NECA's heyday, for lack of a proper term, even though this was nearly the last of their figures, it's a bit sad because they never included a beam effect with this one, and I think that a 2003 beam effect would at least look pretty damn cool. That said, do I recommend this in 2025? You know what? Yes. Why? Because the average resale price on the cheaper end is about $40 to $60 from what I've seen, and if you're able to snag one up for that price, hey, you're walking away a happy camper. I actually had 3 at one point. I gave my other 2003 and actually another 64 to my dad. So if you're watching this, Dad, hey, hope you still have them. That said, I'm going to rate this guy an overall rating of 8.5 out of 10. That said, thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed it, leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out, everyone.